Let me get this shut down. Okay, all right. Welcome to LTAOR for July 2022. Today we're doing a network update. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Just so you know, it's being recorded and it will be posted on the LTAOR website for viewing later as well. All right, let me get my other window up here. Hello. All right. So first, we're going to start talking about the 10th annual meeting, which is in March of 2023. So these are some of the themes that we've had in the past. We've had palpatory skills, OMM use and effectiveness research, treatment response and adverse events, building a research culture in OMM, OMM safety and effectiveness, measuring the impact of OMM, and then OMM research in general. And so next year, we're looking for what you guys would be interested in seeing from us and in the keynote speaker as well. So next year, it's March 14th, 2023 in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in conjunction with Convo that's happening at the same time in the same place. So I'm going to stop sharing and Jane is going to bring up the whiteboard, and Sherry and Ron, if you guys have ideas about what would be good to see at the annual meeting next year, please feel free to unmute your mic and let us know your thoughts.
Okay. All right, so here we have this. This is a new experiment. So we're trying out using a whiteboard. So you all can access the whiteboard yourselves if you want to type something on here, or as we have a discussion, we'll type notes on here so that we can keep track of them and see them all together. So our discussion is about for our 2023 annual meeting theme. And what are your ideas about that? Does anyone have any ideas?
There we go. There we go.
One thing would be trying to focus on publications.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe from members and from DO-Touch.NET. So kind of what's the current evidence something about the patient registry.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great idea.
What would you guys see as beneficial for coming to the annual meeting? What would you go there for? Would you go there for didactic or more of a lab kind of setting where we practice? What would be your preference?
May I say something?
Please.
Yes, of course.
Hello, everybody. Of course, for us here in Europe, it's a long ways away. So I could not promise to go, but I would imagine that a European osteopath would go if he would be able to come back with food for thought, but also some table experience. I know you all know Raphael Zeghera. You were talking about a key speaker, and Raphael Zeghera seems to be really the buzz here in Europe with his new formation center, BMS, Body, Mind, Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have been following his progression. The last month, no, excuse me, it wasn't last month. It was about the 15th of May. He organized a big seminar here in Paris, where he was talking about the history of osteopathy, how traditional medicine and modern alternative medicine is beginning to seep into osteopathy through the evidence-based model, and how we're able now to understand historical criteria that before seemed almost, how would we say that in English?
What is it in French?
Difficile à essayer de penser en deux langues. When something in the past becomes almost like tradition, like mythology. So Raphael is trying to explain to us the principles of osteopathy that come from steel, but using the science to verify them, but also showing that these principles come from traditional medical practice, almost shamanism. And he seems to be really the osteopath that everybody's talking about here in Europe. So maybe that would be a good key speaker.
Right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ron. Mhm.
Yeah, and
And-
Raphael has done did a LTAOR webinar.
Mhm.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah,
And as you all know, Jason was here. Jason Haxton was here. He participated in this seminar. So you could always get a hold of him and ask him his opinion. I think
Right.
he was pretty enthused about what was happening.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So for those of us just joining us, so what we're talking about right now is the annual meeting in March. So it's going to be March 14th in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And what we're asking from the network right now is what you want to see from the annual meeting for your CE credits, and also as a keynote, what would be beneficial to you to receive at the annual meeting other than just DO-Touch.NET updates. What kind of ideas do you have?
I have one to offer. Hi. This is Hannah Robbins. And hey, y'all. So Brian and I spoke in March briefly about the tricorder experience of the future. And let's just say the future is not so far off. I have some entrepreneurial background and potential for involvement of what all of us know from the on-site and online experience, VR, and any kind of augmentative as well as artificial approaches and Web 3.0 virtual experiences are not about to go away. And I want to make sure as an osteopathic physician that we are part of the conversation, not left to the side. So I actually have people in the business community who are writing up a business plan now that's going on 20 pages and developing some research that would include osteopathic focus as well as multisensory towards haptics and other things. So I'd like to suggest putting together a survey that I've started drafting so that we can start understanding what are the needs of osteopathic physicians to make sure that we are placeholders and stakeholders in terms of the future of medicine, including hands-on skills for research, for heritage and legacy, as well as the future students who need to learn from the teachers of the past. Does that sound interesting to people? I'd like to recommend that as a keynote that I could provide.
That we look at that. Well, Brian was not able to attend today, so obviously he's not here to provide feedback on your conversation. But yeah, it sounds very interesting. So that's another idea.
Actually, that blends in completely with what Raphael Zegar is doing. Sounds to be just another way of expressing the same ideas.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Brian and I are also both going to be at Fascial Research Congress in Montreal. So this is something where I really see the advantages for our continuing involvement at the community large level.
Excellent.
Thank you, Hallie.
You're welcome.
So I'm trying to think big picture here about is there some sort of theme that we're for the entire annual meeting that we're coming up with?
I'd like to suggest one. Osteopathic medicine and research, past, present, and future.
Okay.
Nice.
Hello. So, Dr. Dean, to answer your question, in the past, we've had a separate resident workshop. It's been the night before the annual meeting. And so last year we didn't do that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility of something we can or would do because we've done it in the past. But I did add your note about resident research on here too. Does anybody else have any ideas what they would want out of the annual meeting? Certain table practice that they would appreciate? And I apologize, I'm not a content expert, so I don't know all the proper terms to call them, but.
This is Kate. Hallie, I like your ideas. The theme sounds like how we're going to do that in a day and really do it justice. I think that we might want to be somewhat more focused.
Well, absolutely focus where it's at. And the more precise we are, the more likely we are to meet our goals.
One of the things that occurred to me as you were mentioning that, Kate, is what sort of time we've been doing. So what we've done in the recent past is we've had on Tuesday evening a session that was focused on resident research. And then on Wednesday morning, 4 hours of our annual meeting. The first year or two that we had in conjunction with AAO convocation. We actually did a full day on Wednesday. The problem we found with that is a lot of people weren't available Wednesday afternoon because of residency testing and the AAO board meeting and things like that. So what are your, what's long enough and not too long? How's that for a question?
If we could just have you for a week, that would be great. So, Jane, will it mess up your whiteboard if I share the previous themes again for those that joined us a little bit? Just
Nope. You'll just have to, I will close it and bring it back up when we're done.
Okay. I'm just going to share our previous themes again. Well, maybe. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, so these are our previous themes and the specific sessions that we had in the years past since 2012. And so next year is actually going to be our 10th annual meeting. And so we kind of want to make it a big deal because that's kind of exciting. That's a lot of time you guys have committed to this network. So we want to make it a big thing for you guys. But that being said, we also want to make it worthwhile and worth CE and something you guys would want to attend. So if you guys have any ideas, and you don't have to tell us right now, although we'd like that. If you think of something later, please email us and let us know for sure. Okay, Jane, I'm going to stop sharing so you can share your whiteboard again.
Okay.
So Jane, maybe you can update me a little bit. The last I remember, because I didn't get to your last meeting, was this idea of Osprey and kind of a patient registry. And I don't know what's happened with that project.
Right. So we are currently recruiting clinician champions to help us to validate and pilot test the project formerly known as Osprey. We had to change the name because of copyright, trademark, wordmark, whatever conflict.
I see.
And so it's now called the OMT Patient Registry. It just kept it simple. So.
Dr. Dean, did you have a question
or comment?
Yeah, just actually a couple thoughts. One, I wondered, you know, I know we talked at the last one about the promise and, you know, kind of incorporating, you know, that questionnaire. And I didn't know if we could do a workshop for those clinicians who are interested in using that, because I actually went to their website and I'm still struggling to see how to kind of take it from a, like, you know, just in my head, you know, into like a to actually do it, you know, and even like finding the Promise 16 thing is really challenging. But I didn't know if there could be some kind of workshop on like practical implementation, you know, of that or patient reported outcome type thing, just for us to kind of have enough knowledge that we feel like we can do it and it's not so scary, I guess.
Right. Sure.
And then the other thing I thought about what I'm seeing with the residents coming through is that they really, and I don't know if they just missed this in med school or, you know, what the deal is, but they seem to struggle with even doing basic resident literature or like literature reviews, you know. I don't know that clinicians maybe struggle with that, but it seems like the residents are just kind of almost don't even know where to start. I don't know who would lecture on that, but I just, it would be nice for them to just have a place to start, even for their, for their introduction sections of their case reports. It's almost like they just don't know how to go about, doing a lit search. But maybe that's just program specific. I don't know.
I don't know, Amy. I think that's pretty universal from what we find.
Wow,
too.
okay.
Yeah, so I think you're right on. And we usually have our at ASCOM, the librarians give a presentation and kind of go through how would you search some kind of topic, and then how you save, and kind of like we use Zotero. They also use EndNote as kind of software that can save your citations, and and they can then automatically put it in your paper and number them automatically, and automatically do the referencing and stuff like that. So taking a look at kind of a citation manager system, I think might be a good thing to, because on my FAO paper, I had, I don't know, 250 references, and it automatically just put them in the right places from that software. And if I changed, if I changed, okay, I wanted number 4 in front of number 2, it would change all the numbering of the citations in the paper. So
oh my gosh,
huge time saver.
Oh yeah, wow! I would like to learn more about that myself.
Yeah, and you can have like the abstract, or in some cases the whole document saved to the citation, so that when they hit on the citation, that can come up. So those are interesting things, and I don't think that none of us know enough about it. I learned it from my millennial students. I didn't learn it.
Nice. Great, that's awesome.
I agree. It's a universal issue or problem that a lot of clinicians have at whatever level of training and practice. So maybe rather, if there's only 4 hours, as well as that Tuesday night session, that's a big topic that might help to just also put together what the reference librarians recommend in advance, because they've written up so much, and not necessarily making it a tutorial during the session, which is focused on the research, but people resources and access.
So I want to ask a question, and again, I'm not a content expert, so please forgive me. That specific topic is not OMM related, but it is related to research. Is that something that would be acceptable for the annual meeting or the resident meeting? Is that something that's acceptable by clinicians?
That's exactly why I was bringing it up. Years ago, Tony Chila, Hollis King, and I did a 2007 did the presentation for Cranial Academy on research design and applications. And so this is a focused need that is clear, but I feel it's a little bit different from the applications of those of us who are already in the trenches or wanting to continue that. Having research training, there are different handbooks and seminars and ways to do that. I don't feel myself that this would be the best use of the 4 hours.
Okay. Thank you.
I wonder. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, Dr. Jean.
Just a thought, I wondered if we could, if we didn't put something like that in the 4 hours, if we could, the residents have their own, and the medical students have their own program tracks at Convo. I wondered if it would help with visibility for DO-Touch.NET to like do a lecture for that, instead of taking away time from our workshop. I don't know.
I do like that idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a really great discussion, but I'm going to cut it off. Jane, will you stop sharing for a second?
Just a second. Okay.
Just 1 second. Yeah. Okay. All right. So to recap, those are all fantastic ideas, and we're going to go back with Dr. Degenhardt and kind of come up with a theme and see what we can do for next convo or next annual meeting. which is in conjunction with Convo and will be March 14th, 2023, with the possibility of the night before as well. We'll see how that goes. But please plan to attend, and we will have it hybrid. I say definitively because I plan to make it that way. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go to OMT techniques, nomenclature, consistency, and the next steps. And Jane, if you want to take it away. Oh, do you want me to play this first?
Well, so just a brief introduction.
Okay.
And then,
All right.
So for those of you that have been part of DO-Touch.NET for a couple of years, you may recall our Technique of the Month videos. So at the recent ICMT conference, Marcus Westlowski, who is a DO-Touch.NET member from Dresden, Germany, presented a poster about what we found in the Technique of the Month phase 1. So there's a small video here about the methodology that Marcus made for the conference. And so, Sarah, if you would please play that. Oh, you're going to have to unshare and share with with sound.
I forget to do that every single time. Okay, let's try again.
Osteopathic manipulative treatment techniques nomenclature. Is there a need to improve consistency? Standard technique definitions of osteopathic manipulative treatment, or OMT, techniques are available in the glossary of osteopathic terminology. To assure that these definitions are adequate for research purposes, this nomenclature needs to clearly distinguish between techniques and be consistently used within the profession. Without such specificity, treatment outcome studies will have questionable validity due to unclear or inconsistent associations between interventions and outcomes. In this poster, we described the results of our Technique of the Month study, where we determined how consistently clinicians classify OMT techniques. Members of the practice-based research network, DO-Touch.NET, are physicians and clinicians throughout the world who provide osteopathic manipulations to their patients. Members volunteered to select one of 11 OMT technique categories to demonstrate on video. Every month, a different video was sent to DO-Touch.NET members. Participants watched the video and then selected which OMT technique they thought was being demonstrated. They could select up to 3 choices if they were unsure about which technique it was. Participants were then told what the technique demonstrator called the technique. They were then asked to provide information about why they chose the technique category that they did. They also provided demographic information, including whether they were trained in and currently use the demonstrated technique. We tested to see whether the consistency in nomenclature was at least 20% better than chance, which techniques had higher consistency than others, and whether consistency was higher for participants in some demographic groups. We found some expected results and some surprises. We look forward to discuss the results and the future of this research during the poster session.
All right.
Osteopathic manipulative treatment techniques nomenclature is demonstrated on video.
Pause.
Every month, a different video was sent.
Hold on, Jane. Sorry.
That's okay. I did this myself when I was practicing. So.
It worked when I practiced. Okay, continue.
Of course. Okay, so if you go to the, just to let you know that this was the winner of the best poster in the educational category award. So I wanted to show you.
There we go.
So I wanted to share the results with you that were on the poster. Basically, we had these 11 technique categories, and all of them except the indirect or functional method, lymphatic drainage, and myofascial release had better consistency between what the respondents said the technique was and what the technique demonstrator said the technique was. Also, those who currently used the technique that was being demonstrated were more likely to classify it consistently with the technique demonstrator. Next slide, please. So this is a graph of how the probability that the respondents classified the technique that was being demonstrated consistently with what the demonstrator called it. And so the brackets, like there's a yellow bracket and a green bracket and a red bracket. Those are technique categories where there was no statistically significant difference. And so you can see in the almost perfect category, we have cranial manipulation or biodynamics, muscle energy, and articulatory or still technique. And then at the bottom were those three technique categories that weren't significantly better than chance. And then we have some in the middle there. That little dotted line bracket, there's no statistical difference between those three categories. But basically we have really good, okay, and not good. Yes, Kate.
So if I'm understanding, in that green area, where you have no statistical significance, you have counter strain, FPR, soft tissue pins, articulatory or still, all were looking the same?
They're not statistically significantly different. How's that for statistician speak? So they weren't far enough different to be significantly different. And if you notice the soft tissue or pins and the counter strain or facilitated positional release, those confidence intervals, which are the bars to either side of the dot there, those are fairly wide. And if it compared to, say, muscle energy or articulatory or still technique. And if you look at the sample sizes for those two techniques, they're fairly small compared to the muscle energy and articulatory. One of the things was we only had one video of soft tissue and we only had one video that was counter strain. Whereas we had 2, maybe 3 videos of muscle energy and the same for articulatory or still technique. So we didn't have as much, so the sample size is smaller, so the confidence interval is bigger because we have more uncertainty. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to see, like you like articulatory and still is kind of in both categories, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to think, like, the difference between articulatory still and counter strain is huge.
Right.
So I guess I'm not following it.
Okay, well, so the respondents weren't asked to compare between techniques. You know, they weren't asked to say,
Is this A or B?
Is articulatory still different from counter strain? What they were asked to do is watch this video that the person demonstrating the technique, they called what they were demonstrating articulatory or still. And then people who watched the video were to decide what they thought it was. Let me show you the next slide, and maybe this will help. So this is the muscle energy. This was an example of almost perfect agreement between what the respondents said the technique was and what the demonstrator said the technique was. So you can see, so the red lines, the red bars are what percent of respondents said this video was demonstrating muscle energy as their first choice. And the blue bars are, for example, the big blue bar under muscle energy. That's almost 100% of the respondents said either as their first, second, or third choice that that particular video was demonstrating muscle energy. And the person who demonstrated, who did the demonstration, said they were doing muscle energy. Okay, so this information is an example of almost perfect agreement between, or almost perfect consistency on what people were calling this particular demonstrated technique. So let's go to the next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, so this is an example of a technique that had basically poor consistency. This was the category called indirect or functional method. And this particular video, you can see that there was a fair number of people who called this, what was being demonstrated in this video, balanced ligamentous tension or ligamentous articular strain. Okay, and as a matter of fact, more people said it was BLT than said it was indirect or functional method, even though the person demonstrating the technique said it was indirect or functional method. So there's a lack of consistency for that particular technique. I can tell you, we had comments about what about why people answered the way they did, and one of the people who actually said that it was indirect or functional method as one of their three choices commented that Edna Lay taught this technique, the technique that was being demonstrated here, as BLT. So that's an area where, maybe we need new different definitions or recategorizing things or things like that. Sarah, if you'd go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so this one was I thought was kind of fascinating. This is an HVLA or thrust technique, and this was the only video that we had for HVLA. Okay, and you would think that HVLA would be pretty obvious. I mean, as a non-clinician, I would think that HVLA or thrust techniques would be pretty consistent in defining, but you can see here that it wasn't. And in this case, there were comments that people who are viewing the video didn't see a thrust. So, so to me, I believe this is an issue with the study procedures rather than a lack of consistency. That the way we set up the videos and the way we kind of restricted the demonstrators from using certain words, so they weren't supposed to say, "And now I thrust," because that would be a big clue, you know, kind of like, "Now I hold this tender point for 90 seconds," you know, things like
Jane?
that. Yes.
What's interesting on this is your number one was the HVLA, but your number two was articulatory. And really the setup can be very similar, the difference being how rapid the thrust, right? So I can see why those two could be kind of similar.
Right, right. And that's why, next slide, please, Sarah.
I did that for you on purpose, Jane.
You took my cue with me just, you know,
Sorry.
me just sending it to you through brainwaves. Thank you, Kate. So that's why we're forming a work group, and the tasks for this work group will be to review these results and the procedures for how we conducted this phase 1 technique of the month, and to review the technique categories and definitions that we're currently using with DO-Touch.NET, and then to develop a system to revise those categories and definitions as needed. One idea from a research perspective is to use what's called the Delphi method, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's an iterative process where a group of people, a group of experts define some things and then send it out to a group of experts as a survey. The group of experts respond, and then they're given, it's an iterative process, so that as you get more results from the group, then you send those results back out to the group of experts and ask them, okay, do you change your mind about anything, or does this make you think differently? And so it's a method to come to consensus. And so that's one idea for how to work through revising the categories and definitions, if that's needed, which from my non-expert opinion, I think it's pretty clear that something's needed. And also, if the work group has any recommendations on modifying the technique of the month procedures for the phase 2 testing. So, so I'm just going to leave this announcement out here for you, and we will be sending out announcements that looking for volunteers to work on this technique classification work group. So please keep that in mind if you find this to be an interesting topic. Okay. All right.
All right. Okay. So now we're going to switch focus a little bit to the International Consortium on Manual Therapies and what's next for that. And Jessica Korick is here with us, and she's going to kind of give an update on that as well. Jessica, do you want to say anything?
Oh, I think, Sarah, that I'm
Oh, just kidding. It's Jane.
covering that. Unless Jessica interrupts me.
Okay, go ahead.
As I mentioned, the last research was presented at the International Consortium on Manual Therapies conference, which occurred in May, the ICMT conference. And I know that several of you attended that conference, and I hope you were able to participate fully. Now we have the opportunity to join the consortium. So the members of the ICMT membership is open to practitioners of manual therapies. So obviously that includes osteopaths and osteopathic physicians. That also includes chiropractic, massage therapy, physical therapy, structural integration, many other manual therapy disciplines as well. So if you're interested in seeing more about this consortium of, back please, this consortium of manual therapy practitioners and researchers, you can see the benefits of being a member and the requirements at this website, icmtconference.org. You can scan the QR code. Now, next slide, please. There is a general membership meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You can register at this website or using this QR code. And yeah, it's kind of a weird website address, but you can just if you sign up for you don't have to be a member yet if you want to attend the general membership meeting to learn more about what's going on with the ICMT. So if you want more information about that, please contact us or go to the icmtconference.org website and contact the ICMT directly. Okay, so let's move on.
Okay, Jane, we're going to talk about your card studies, but I just want to tell you we have 10 minutes left.
Okay. Okay, so 7 minutes for the card studies. How's that?
Okay.
So somebody please stop us, because we're going to have sort of another discussion here. So I don't know if you all are familiar with card studies. So here's a little bit about card studies. They are observational cross-sectional studies. So what's happening at a single period of time? Collecting descriptive data about clinical care, knowledge of behavior, prevalence of conditions, things like that. They're called card studies because originally they were surveys sent out on, like a 3x5 index card size thing. And so they're designed to be completed while you're seeing a patient and like in a minute or less. Next slide, please. So there are two main types of card studies. They're condition-specific card studies, which basically you complete a little survey about each patient who has a specified condition. So each patient you see who has neck pain, okay, And they're either collected for some specified short period of time, like 2 to 4 weeks, or until a predetermined number of cards are completed. So, we're going to collect data until we have data on 1,200 neck pain patients. Next slide, please. Okay. There are also prevalence studies are done with card studies. And basically, you take a very short period of time, like half day, maybe a full day of clinic time, and complete a card for every patient who is seen during that specified period of time. And the questions on the card, there usually be a few demographic questions and then a qualifying question. So you're trying to find the prevalence of patients who come for OMT who have high cholesterol. I'm just picking a subject here. So out of all the patients who come for OMT, how many have high cholesterol? So your qualifying question would be, does this patient have high cholesterol? If not, then the data collection is complete on that patient. If they do have high cholesterol, then there might be 1 or 2 more questions to specify, to give more specifics about their condition. Next slide, please. So Jack Westfall, and his colleagues wrote a paper about card studies, basically how to do card studies. And I found it it was very helpful to see what they found and what their recommendations were. And one of their recommendations was about what kind of research questions are appropriate for card studies. Things like, what is the estimated prevalence for this condition? And are things that will affect the completion rate. So do you have enough patients in your network that have that particular condition that you want to study to make it able to be a short-lived study? I like this. Do not ask about pregnancy if your practice is to deliver few babies. That made sense to me. Can the card be completed at the time of the clinic visit or soon afterwards? Is it simple to figure out what patients are qualified? Because you don't want the clinicians filling out the cards to have to look up a bunch of information, because who wants to spend their time doing that? And can the card be completed in a minute or less? So trying to minimize the time spent. So I don't think we're going to have time to go through, next slide, please, to go through our exercise. So we might need to just, if you have ideas about card studies, and I think card studies would be a great way for residents to get involved with research. figuring out some simple survey that clinicians who are doing osteopathic manipulation can fill out on their patients. There is an app, a smartphone, iPhone app that is being developed and should be available soon. So we don't have to fill out these 3x5 cards anymore and hand enter the data. It could all be done on one of these smartphones. So we won't go into the discussion now, but I would enjoy hearing from you about your ideas for card studies, and if you want to participate in designing a card study and conducting it through DO-Touch.NET. Ideally, I would like to see us doing, like one card study every quarter. Just a quick and simple study that lots of participants can, lots of members can participate in easily. So,
Jane?
Yes.
Just real quick, a good person to maybe touch base with would be Bill Devine, because I know that he was involved doing card studies through the ORC some years ago. So he might be a good reference for what his experience was like and have some ideas.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. Just a quick update. Some of you have attended our past, the ATSO Research Institute's past Advancing Skills in Osteopathy courses. Just for those of you who've never heard of the ASOs, just a quick informational thing about these. So they're an advanced series of palpation training courses. It's a unique and novel continuing education experience. We have, through Brian Degenhardt's endowment from the Osteopathic Heritage Foundation, we have some state-of-the-art instrumentation that can be used to help you refine and standardize your palpation skills. I like this. For those of you who know Jason Haxton, also included in the ASO courses is our presentations by him to provide a personal motivational experience of osteopathic history. Sorry, that was my Google Home telling me I can sit down now. So we are having our first ASO course since 2019. This August, members of the DAAO from Germany will be in Kirksville for that course. And we'll be planning more ASO courses for next summer. And so if you have a group that you would be interested in attending one of these ASO courses, or if you yourself are individually interested in an ASO course, please contact us and let us know. Sorry, that was kind of quick. Last thing on the agenda, just to let you know, so for the, let's talk about OMM research series. We're coming up for renewal of our CME, providing our CME credits in October. We've had a large change in costs of providing CME credits over from last year to this year. So the costs for the fixed costs for us to provide CME increased about 33%. In addition, attendees who are requesting CME has decreased by over 50%, which means that the cost per attendee of us providing CME credits has increased by more than 166%. And to be honest, that for DO-Touch.NET, we're funding this out of Brian Degenhardt's endowment, and that cost is not sustainable for us. We are looking into other options, different CME accreditors, and we're trying to balance, keeping the costs down for you all, providing that as a benefit for you, but also making sure that it's sustainable for us. And so we would like to hear from you about the value of our CME programming. Does the cost, would you be willing to pay more per CME credit? Are more people interested in receiving CME credit for attending these webinars, things like that? So I know we're running behind, so we won't go into a discussion there, but we would like to hear from you about that. We will be meeting with another provider of CME accreditation next week to see what they can offer us as far as fixed costs. So thank you. This is important. Next month's, not that everything else we've talked about wasn't important, but next month's Let's Talk About OMM Research seminar is going to be on the 4th Friday instead of the 3rd Friday. We've had to change that date because our speaker was not available on the 3rd Friday. But our speaker will be Dr. Nicole Bixler, and she'll be talking about value-based reimbursement and osteopathy. So we hope to see you there, and we'll be in touch about several things that we've talked about. So thank you for coming. I'm sorry we didn't have more time for discussion. So.
Thank you all so much for coming. Sorry we ran a little bit over, but we hope you have a good Friday and a good weekend and enjoy the rest of your day.
If you have a minute, I have a proposition for a theme title for the annual meeting, March 14th.
Okay.
Kind of summarizing everything we said, trying to get all the ideas of everybody. And so my proposition would be the body, mind, spirit tenet in osteopathic philosophy, past, present, future. And we could have a workshop on interoceptive perceptual palpatory skills. And we could ask for people to present their papers on current and recent research. And this kind of sums up all the ideas that we had.
Wonderful. Okay.
That's great.
I'm going to bring this whiteboard back up, and I'm going to ask you to please repeat.
Okay, the title that I have tried to make up is the body, mind, spirit tenet in osteopathic philosophy, past, present, future. So that would be the title. And to have a workshop that would be in relation to that, I would call the workshop interoceptive perceptual palpatory skills. And we could ask for people to present papers that would be on these subjects, that would be from current research. And as I say, this is sort of summarizing all the ideas, except for the bibliography idea, of course, that we had earlier on today.
That's very
And
nice.
excuse me for intervening so much.
No, thank you
That's
so
perfect.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we got it down, and thank goodness it's being recorded. So, so we can go back and make sure I didn't miss anything.
Okay. Thank you everyone so much. Have a good Friday.
Goodbye.